All right, let's get back to it. We've got shutouts, 3 goals, and 3 points. We had 2 matches that walked away with 3-0 score lines. Let's talk about Portland Thorns FC versus Kansas City Current. Portland Thorns taking it to the Current 3-0 to open up their race. Gosh, Lisa, we got to chat about this a little bit. We talked in the preview about how Kansas City is going to get a look at some other opposition now that they have advanced in their Challenge Cup semifinals and getting a chance to look at teams outside of the central region that they played with. They were in a group with Chicago Red Stars, Racing Louisville, and Houston Dash, and we were a little curious about how they were going to look against some other teams in the league, and boy, do we get a glimpse of that. Portland Thorns coming out. Sophia Smith, not in the starting lineup, but still had an impact in this game. Impressive. Absolutely impressive.
It was very impressive to watch these sides play, this Portland side play against Kansas City. You and I both had Portland taking the W in this match against Kansas City, and it was a big test for Kansas City heading into this. Could they play against a powerhouse team in the NWSL, despite winning their Central region in the Challenge Cup, scoring goals, being big influences, having a lot of rookies step up in Elise Bennett, Jenna Weinbrenner, Alex Luera in the back line. They had a lot of good players show a lot of big moments throughout the Challenge Cup. However, for Kansas City coming into this match against Portland, it was going to be a battle, and that's what it was. I think that Portland just brought their A game to Kansas City, and because the opening goals started for Portland in the 8th minute, Morgan Weaver, that was almost like the pop of the balloon to start deflating Kansas City, because after that, it was just Portland attack, ramming themselves down Kansas City's throat. It was a lot of pressure on the back line for Kansas City, and how they dealt with Weaver, Janine Becky, Sam Coffey, Christine Sinclair, Klingenberg, Kuika, all coming into that attack, because Portland rolled out their 3-5-2 that we've seen throughout the Challenge Cup. They've carried that over into the regular season because they were very successful with it, having their wing backs in Megan Klingenberg and Natalia Kuika pushing up, sending crosses into the box. It makes them incredibly lethal, and it's really hard to defend against a team that can send very quality crosses into the box with a lot of texture on them, a lot of pace, in really good positions. And if you're not pressuring to those outside players to prevent the crosses coming in, you need to be able to win the aerial duels in the air. And Kansas City couldn't do that against this Portland side. Heading into the halftime, it's Portland's up 2-0. Christine Sinclair gets the second goal for Portland in the 35th minute. In the second half of this match, it was all Portland. They continued to control a lot of the possession heading throughout this game. It looked lopsided. And ultimately, Sophia Smith, she gets subbed onto this match, and she ends up getting a goal. I wasn't surprised at all about this. I'm actually surprised she didn't start, though. But I think the combination between Weaver and Janine Becky up top was something that Reen Wilkinson wanted to see, and have Janine Becky grow into this league a little bit more as this regular season gets started.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think having, oh my God, Janine Becky, we're just keep naming, I keep listening to you, like our listeners are joining us live, like just rattling off some of these names for this Portland side, and even talking about them or thinking about them in 2021. We talked a lot about that the depth of this squad, and I think that is a similar trend that is going to echo for them in 2022, because we're looking at a team that brought Sophia Smith off of the bench. Like, it's just kind of like, it's a madness to think about, right? And I think when listening to you mention even Janine Becky as an option for them as well, I mean, maybe that was part of the struggle for KC. I mean, that is a lot of pieces, attacking pieces, to keep an eye on, to make sure they're, that they're marked. And I think we saw it even just in that opening goal, right? Just having this great kind of combination play. Rodriguez, Sinclair, Weaver having the presence of mind to, make that extended run. Sinclair getting it through to Weaver, and Weaver putting it away, and that happening within the opening 10 minutes. I think you said it best. It absolutely started to deflate that Kansas City balloon a little bit. And it was a little bit of a struggle. We just didn't see Kansas City ever really stake a place in this game. We talk a lot about waves of momentum in soccer. Maybe you take it 15 by 15 by 15, and we just didn't really see a good stretch, I think, from this current side. I mean, even when you look at the final stats of this game, just absolutely blown away. 19 to 5 shots for Portland on goal, 12 shots to 1 for Kansas City. They would just struggle to generate in their own attack, or even to sort of really kind of say, hey, we're going to take it to you for this stretch of amount of time. And it just didn't happen. And I think the silver lining maybe for Kansas City out of this one is the fact that it was week 1. It's game 1. It's the first match of your regular season. There's clearly a lot here for them to look at and go back and maybe look at the tape and work on, because listen, this is not the only club to go into Providence Park and get whooped, right? Let's just be real. It's a tough place to play when you're the opposition on the road in that facility. Always a good crowd and typically a good team that you're going up against. But I think a lot of people were looking at this as neutrals or as people who are invested on one side or the other, to see like, okay, let's take a look at Kansas City against a team like Portland Thorns. And I think folks are kind of like, well, okay, there's some things to work on here. There's a little bit of difference in opposition that they've been playing against in the Challenge Cup versus throughout the whole of the league. And I think that there's maybe even a lot here for them to look at as they prepare for their semifinal against North Carolina Courage in the Challenge Cup. But we'll see. Hopefully it's just the first one that Kansas City has to grow from. But let's talk about the other 3-0 scoreline in this one. Orlando Pride versus Gotham FC. We talked about this one a little bit, and we're talking about maybe teams that were unfamiliar with others, right? We're talking about Kansas City, Portland, but now we're going to talk about two sides that have gone up against each other multiple times because of how they have played against each other in the Challenge Cup, and now they got to kick off the regular season against each other. Orlando Pride, the hosts in this one, but walking away on the losing side. Listen, I'm excited by this result for Gotham because I feel like we've been coming on here and we're like, what's going on with the attack? Where are the goals? And listen, they delivered in this one. A 3-0 scoreline for Gotham FC on the road against Orlando Pride to kick off their regular season.
This was a huge game for Gotham. This is what we wanted to see. Heading into this one, you had Gotham picked as the winner. I had a draw between these two sides. I wasn't sure we were going to get it from Gotham. They needed to put together a full game. We needed to see individual performances that could collectively be combined to break down opponents. And that's exactly what we ended up seeing from Gotham. This was a first half flurry of goals from Gotham in this match. Before, when we got the starting lineups, right before this match kicked off, I saw that Erin McLeod was back in net for Orlando Pride. And I was really pleased with that player that did well throughout the Challenge Cup, then dealt with a bit of an injury, and she didn't get to play for the last few matches for Orlando throughout the Challenge Cup. And McLeod is a great goalkeeper. So I was feeling stronger about my draw when I saw the starting lineups for these two sides. For Gotham, they had Purce, Mewis, Monahan, and Anamano in their attacking starting lineup as well. But this game got quickly off to a start. I think a player that we've had a lot of question marks about, I've had a lot of question marks about, is midfielder Kristie Mewis for Gotham, because she has so much skill. She ran the midfield when she was at Houston for so many years. She has continuously been called into the national team camps, but being traded to Gotham under Scott Parkinson, Kristie Mewis hasn't looked like herself. She hasn't provided enough. And in this match, we saw a really good Kristie Mewis. She ends up getting the assist off the corner kick to start the opening goal in this match for Gotham. And then she ends up getting the third goal at the end of this first half for Gotham. And of course, Margaret Purce, she gets the breakaway goal that ends up being goal number 2 for Gotham.
I loved it. It was a good strong first half for this
Yes.
Gotham FC side. The goals coming within about a 10 to 15 minute span from Gotham to close out this first half. And I'm in 100% agreement with you. I think getting Chrissy Mewis for Gotham, I think it was met with a lot of enthusiasm, right? But this sort of felt like this was the game that she kind of really introduced herself on the pitch in terms of what she can do, the skill set that she can bring for a team, and now doing this for Gotham FC. And I love the way these goals kind of came about, Lisa. I love that there were different types of goal. You had this opening goal come off of a corner set piece service delivered from Mewis to Zarboni, some goals in the run of play. Loved the goal from Purce, and love this link up that we're starting to see between the two of them. And you could see the connection in this game starting to develop, and that's what we were looking for. I think during the Challenge Cup, we were wondering like, what's the disconnect? Like, is it the fact that there's some unfamiliarity here? And maybe, going through that Challenge Cup, it was a bit of a struggle for them. They've alluded to that. And maybe now we're starting to see the payoff of kind of having those early growing pains, right? Being stuck in this East region again with a couple teams like the Courage, with a couple teams like the Spirit, and now finally kind of taking all of that collective work and putting it all together maybe in the regular season. Now, I am also going to say they did get this 3-0 win against an Orlando Pride team, a team that we know is currently in the process of a rebuild. They've got a new head coach. They've got a ton of new faces. There's always going to be the other side of the ball where folks are saying, okay, this is a 3-0 win against an opposition that is also struggling. How big or convincing of this is of a win is this for a team like Gotham to build on in the offseason? But listen, win is a win in this league. We've heard a lot about how it's the most competitive league in the world and anybody can get you on any kind of given day. So not going to take away anything from Gotham in this win, but I'm a little curious. I know we talked about that. We said we want to see a full 90-minute performance from this Gotham FC side. And while they got the win, and I loved the goals that came out of this, and I'm ready to see more from Gotham, I don't know. We still got that full 90-minute game from them. We're talking about 3 goals that came in the first half, and then you had an Orlando Pride team that came out in the second half and said, no more. It's not gonna happen. So when we're looking at the two halves, you're looking at Gotham not able to break through in the second half. So just a little curious. It's something I want to keep my eye on and take a look at. But I think a really good start if you're looking at Gotham in terms of their attack.
You have to look at the first half versus the second half. And Orlando made changes at the halftime. And I think one of them, that player we hadn't seen in a while for this squad, is Sydney Leroux. She got subbed on at halftime in the midfield. And Leroux is a player that can change the entirety of a game. And I don't want to say it was all on Leroux, but I think the defensive lockdown and having a little bit more control in the second half and not allowing Gotham to score any more goals had a lot to do with bringing Sydney Leroux on. She's a player that can change the course of a game, and Amanda Cromwell, head coach for the Pride, knows that. And it was good to see Leroux finally get minutes, consistent minutes. I mean, consistent 45 after dealing with a bit of an injury. But this is a tough match to evaluate Gotham. However, on paper, they got 3 goals. They got a shutout. That's really, really good for Scott Parkinson and New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC as they head into this regular season.